I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Formula SimRacing Academy Championship. With 11 rounds in the books, we approach the 12th and final round of what has been an enthralling season, but it's not over until it's over. With Cosmo Prosciutto and Damien Scouron separated by just 16 points coming into the Brazilian Grand Prix, it's still all to play for. Scouron needing just a comfortable P7 to secure the title. Prosciutto has nothing to lose and will be giving his absolute everything to bring home that victory. And there's no better a track than Interlagos to decide such a battle. Both drivers have been incredible all season long, and today we'll decide who is just that little bit better. As always, a massive thank you to our sponsors 3D Wraps, Masita eSports and SimLab for supporting FSR. With that out of the way, I'm Zach Sweeney, and today, joined alongside by the brilliant Cameron Rodger, we certainly have a race in store for us today.
Yeah, we certainly do. Final race of the season, getting close in the championship, and it's always good when it comes down to the final race of the season. It's been quite a long season in many regards, starting way back in March at the San Marino Grand Prix and then all the way coming to Brazil. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what we can do today, Zach, and I think it's going to be a good fight between the two drivers of Prosciutto and Scouron, even if the championship is still slightly in the hands of Scouron.
Yeah, he's definitely got a nice advantage. 16 points gives him that cushion. He only needs P7 to firmly secure the championship, as you can see there. Both of them pretty equal all throughout the season. And to be fair, it's been a two-horse race at the front. Frank Hamming only, around about 81 points behind second place. So it has been those two fighting it out at the front. And you can see last time out in Malaysia, only they were 1 and 2. So yeah, it's been a close fight all season long. And it's so good when it comes down to the final round, because we don't know, and Interlagos, it's renowned, we see in real life it has pretty good finales when it comes down to Brazil.
I certainly do. For some reason the Brazilian Grand Prix always just seems to bring up some action, which is always good to see, because it's what we want to see at the end of the season. We want to see a nice finish, and I'm sure the driver's going to give us some really good results in racing when we get towards the end of this race. But we do have 43 laps today, so plenty of racing before we get going and before we see who's going to be the champion.
Yeah, it's a long race. It's a shorter track though, but it sort of equals itself out. But Interlagos is a great circuit. You've got the fast corners such as this one of turn 10. And then you've got the center S's, you've got turn 1 and 2. It's going to be spicy on lap 1, isn't it? Because they really do switch back. You're on the outside for turn 1, you're on the inside of turn 2. So yeah, it's going to be a good race, I'm sure. But at the moment, we've got 7 minutes left to qualify. Now, at the moment, it's Pignataro who leads Adam Rainey in second place. A very close top 4, less than a tenth separating them.
Yeah, it's going to be so close. There's very little corners here. And just in generally, it's quite a short track, so I'm sure we're going to see some really close times. Prosciutto currently with a purple in that first sector, which means he is going to be leading the way. If he can keep that is. But Scouron actually just gone purple himself in the first sector. So let's see what the Royal Blue Racing driver can do in the second sector. It's actually his teammate Andrea Maharazo who goes purple, but then he takes that back. And then coming towards the line, where is he going to put himself? He's going to be able to get himself maybe even into the 1 minute 7s as his teammate does so. And yes, he does. He's going to go with a 7.6. So he's put himself way ahead of the field by a good 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, very, very good lap. We're now on board with Damien Scouron. Goes quickest to the first sector, not purple to the middle one, but we're going to have to see, because it is literally these two tyrants fighting it out. They hopefully aren't going to have any other interruptions, but it's going to really spice things up, is it, if there is. But he comes across the line now. Where's he going to put himself? Is he going to match Scouron? You couldn't get much closer than that. 5,000ths of a second between the two championship leaders. I think we're in for a show, Cam.
Oh, we certainly are. And that's really good news, actually, to see that Prosciutto is still giving his all, because although he can obviously still win the championship, he is that's 16 points behind, which is really difficult to get in one race, where these two drivers have been alternating wins since the 5th race of the season back at Silverstone. So since then, it's basically been Prosciutto one race, then Skovron, then Prosciutto, then Skovron, and they've just been trading those wins. So they've been so close all season, and good to see that they're still pushing all the way to the end.
Yeah, it's always good. I mean, it's never over till it's over, especially in such a sport such as motorsport and even down to sim racing. You literally, anything can happen. And I mean, if just look at Japan when the two came together at turn 1. If that happens again and Scowron's down in P7 and Prosciutto takes the win, you know, anything can happen at any moment. So yeah, it's gonna be a spicy battle. We're on board now with Adam Rainey, another driver who's been one to look out for, especially in the second half of the season since moving to Netrex GP. He's really been on form. He's now coming across the line to finish his second lap. He currently P7, goes up to P6. 4 and a bit tenths off pole. So if you exclude the two at the front, who themselves are very close, the midfield from 3rd downwards are also looking pretty competitive. So excluding the championship battle, it's also going to be a pretty good race in the middle, as Adam Rainey's teammate Harry Smith goes into P7.
And you are very correct. It's not just the championship battle that we are really trying to work out before the end of the season, but it is also all those places in that midfield. And when we get into that warm-up session, we'll have a quick reminder of the standings as well, just to see a little bit further down that there is still battles to be had, even in the lower down places. As Kevin Morville now in 12th place currently, he is going to actually stay there with that position. Actually goes down as someone jumps up. That was maybe Lim Howard, who is jumping up in front of him as well. So still plenty of lap times coming in, with still 4 minutes to go in the session.
Yeah, and we can see now Prosciutto on his second lap, purple to the first sector, so looking to improve and secure that pole position. I mean, it's very much not secure. You get, of course, 3 flying laps here for the Academy, and I think every qualifying session in FSR, so it's really got to be knuckled down and get those laps in while you can. So he's got his first one, he's got the bank time in, he's now going for a second one to try and improve. He goes, of course, purple, but Damien Scowron just edges himself ahead, so a 16.8 for Prosciutto, and Scowron just managing to beat that. So it really is a straight fight between these two. Prosciutto now into the final sector. Has he improved as well? He goes purple to the middle sector as well, so he's looking to be on a very good lap now. He climbs up the hill and the dash towards the line, where we've seen very notorious drag races in the past. Now through the final corner, you can really try and minimize the run and take the shortest run to the line, keep it to the left hand side. Across the line wasn't an improvement it was a white final sector, but an improvement overall. Edges himself just shy of half a tenth off Damien Scowron, who is now coming through the final proper corner on this circuit. Goes green to the middle sector, so not quite purple, but he only needs half a tenth improvement to see himself on that provisional pole position. Now through the final corner, where can the championship leader put it? Is it going to be provisional pole? Across the line it is, by 18 hundredths of a second, or 18 thousandths of a second, sorry.
So even as they come in with their second lap, they're still only thousandths of a second. But that time, as you say, it was Skovron who got himself just ahead. And this is really great to see that the two drivers are just pushing themselves to the absolute limit. And I think it's going to be a really great battle even when we get towards the race. But who's going to start on the final pole position of the season? We'll have to find out, as they've still got one run left. But let's see, Indirect Remits down in P17 for Netrex GP. Improving in that middle sector, but just slightly down on that first sector by a tenth or so from where he would have wanted to be. Let's see what he can do. His teammates are up there in 8th and 9th place. But where is he going to put himself? He is then going to jump up. No, he's not. He's actually going to stay there. Improves in that third sector, but he lost it all in that first one.
And that's qualifying over for him. He's completed his 3 flying laps, so it's only going to be P17. But the Netrex, that's a big crash. Who's this? This is Zarahov. Currently sits P5, not too far off pole position, but that is going to be, I think a big blunt to the ego a bit on his second fire. So we've still got one more, so he can get out and try and improve. Still a P5, very good result. On board with Laurent. What can he do to the first sector? It's a white one, so not an improvement. And still a second off pole, but it's such a close midfield. I mean, you've got Adam Rainey, you've got Luchak, Andrea Miyasoa. Any one of them could really maybe stick it into P3. So it's a really close competitive one. So if you exclude the top 2, as we said earlier, Cam, it's going to be a really, really good race, I think.
Oh, certainly, especially around that P10 position or so. You've got so many drivers 0.5 seconds off as Lorente gets a little bit wiggly there out of the hairpin, coming towards the end of Sector 2. Now he's going to be coming out of this final corner. It's so important because it's just flat out all the way to the line. And that is basically the only corner in this final sector as well. So you can either win it or lose it all in that corner. Let's see what he does as he comes to the line. He's not actually improving so far, but he improves in that final sector. However, he is going to have to stay there for a little bit as his teammate is improving in the first.
Yeah, Harry Smith looking pretty good. I mean, literally about a tenth of a second. We'll see him up, 3 positions up into P6. So definitely all to play for on these final stages of qualifying. We've now got the 2 leaders out on their final runs to see what they can do. Separated by just 18 thousandths of a second at the front. It's going to be a very, very close finish to qualifying. But on board then with Harry Smith, he improved to the first sector, didn't quite improve to the middle sector, taking a very interesting line through the final corner and across the line. Wasn't an improvement. No, not quite. So he stays in P9 at the death of quali in a very hefty crash. So at the best, it's going to be P9, and I think Adam Rainey is not going to be heading out, but on board with Damien Scouron now through the middle sector in towards turn number 9. He goes purple to the first sector. Prosciutto doesn't improve, so it looks Scouron to be the favourite for pole position, but with such fine margins, anything can happen. He gets a bit of a scramble for turn 10, in towards turn 11, completely flat out if you're brave enough, and then in towards turn 12, where you really need a good exit, as Cam said. He goes purple to the middle sector once more, so this is a very, very hooked up lap. Prosciutto can't improve again to the middle sector, so it looks as though Scouron might just about etch this one ahead and make that championship fight that little bit more comfortable for him across the line. What's it going to be? It's going to be a 107.487. That's going to be comfortably pole position because Prosciutto can't improve. Frank Hamming up into P3 with a good lap at 107.854. And I think that's going to be qualifying over. Riboli, the last across the line. Can he get himself off P21? Improved to the first sector, didn't to the middle sector. And the last person to cross the line, where can he put it up a couple of places? Maybe. And he goes up into P15. So a decent lap there.
Yeah, decent indeed for those drivers, but as you say, it's a really good day for Skovron. In the end, managing to get pole by just over a tenth of a second, which is just what you want to be doing if you are in his position, because he's going to be really trying to get to this victory, this title in style with victory today. It's always good when you get the championship, but you also want to be doing it by getting the victory on the track and not having to just roll across the line in a lower down place.
No, definitely. It's always better. I mean, a championship's a championship at the end of the day, but it's always nice if you can get it with a win, and he's set himself up nicely. I mean, pole is the best way to start that, especially here at Interlagos. But taking a look at the grid, then it was Damien Scouron that takes pole position ahead of his championship rival, Cosmo Prosciutto. Those two really can't get enough of each other. Can they? Frank Hamming in P3 with Mancini in P4, Zaharov in P5 with Thomas Andriami Arisoa in P6, Lutzak in P7 with Adam Rainey P8, Harry Smith P9 with Roberto Pignataro rounding off the top 10. It's going to be a very, very good race, I'm sure, Cam, because the top 10 separated by less than 7/10 of a second. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
Yes, certainly indeed. And as these drivers just do a bit of a warm-up, we'll get a look around the track from Michi Hoyer.
This is Formula Sim Racing. My name is Michi Hoyer and welcome guys for the final time this year in 2021 to lap presentation in the Formula Sim Racing 2021 series. We're coming around the final turn to pick up the speed for the flying presentation lap around Sao Paulo Interlagos, and we are just about to start our flying lap. Heavy braking zone into turn 1, probably after the long straight, best overtaking opportunity into the center, but you need to stay tight here on the inside, open up the entry for 2, fight the car a little on the exit into 3, which will be flat out, a short sprint up towards turn 4 down the hill, Curva del Sol, into the left hand you go, can take all of the curb on the exit. 5 acceleration, no issue whatsoever. Turn 6 and 7, a double right-hander. Car wants to become loose as you go over the crest, and then slowing the car down into the first of a series of hairpins. Turn 8, 9, and finally turn 10 as the last hairpin. And you see the car wants to slide due to the rear, just always reacting to the elevation changes going down the hill through 11 into the final turn 12. Again, traction very important here, going up the hill. Car very, very nervous over the bumps, over the elevation changes. And now for the final time this year, we're watching who will battle it out for the win in the FSR 2021 season finale.
Well, a big thank you to Michi Hoy there, giving us a nice little lap guide around the Interlagos circuit. Well, we're back now for the race, and well, it's going to be a good one indeed. Just taking a second look at the standings then ahead of 43 laps of the Sao Paulo circuit for the Brazilian Grand Prix, the season finale of what has been a very, very tense season. It's been an interesting one, certainly. And it's very, very close. So it is Damien Scouron coming into this final race with a very hefty advantage, 16 points ahead of his championship rival Cosmo Prosciutto. But Frank Hamming, Harry Smith and Pignataro still fighting over that P3 with Adam Rainey level on points for P5. And Adam Rainey, during his very, very good run of form recently, is going to be looking to establish himself nicely in the midfield. Christian Mocareno in P7 with David Branthholm in P8. Garrett Battler and Kevin Morville round off the top 10 in the standings. It's been such a tight midfield camp. It's just been so good, and any one of these guys really could take it if they have a really good standout result today.
Oh yeah, they certainly could, and especially that battle between Rainey and Pignataro, literally joint on points as we get towards this final race in Brazil. So hopefully the guys have a nice clean race to finish that one out, but also for that third place in the championship with Smith and Hamming, 7 points between them. That is very easy to swap around as well as the lower parts of the top 10 there. So I think, yeah, we're going to definitely see some good battles as we have the 43 laps around here. Obviously, strategy's been quite an interesting point for this academy season, because the race is always just a bit more than 2 tanks of fuel, so you always have to make that second pit stop, and then where you do that, it's always going to be quite important factor for the race.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a bit of a headache for the drivers during this season, and of course that mandatory hard tyre as well, really spicing things up with it all. So the strategy has played a huge factor, and it definitely could today, especially around Interlagos, because while overtaking is easy, it also opens the door for maybe some opportunities for an undercut and overcut. So yeah, really looking forward to how both the on-track action and also the strategy plays a factor, because it's a very crucial race. I mean, it's come down to the wire.
Oh, it absolutely has, and hopefully they can put on a good show, because in the AMA race just before this, in the 4th division, the two rivals collided in turn 2 on the first lap. So hopefully we don't see that happen in the Academy Championship, because Scovron and Prosciutto, they had such a good battle. I mean, if you just look between them, you can see it's 25 points for a win, and you can just see how it ping-ponged each way, with Scovron last time, but then the previous it was Prosciutto, then Scovron, etc., all the way back. So yeah, it's been a great race, and hopefully they can have a nice clean one to finish off the season.
Yeah, it's always better when it comes down to an exciting race rather than a dramatic collision. But yeah, we'll see how they go on. I mean, we've seen all throughout the season that they've managed to race each other well, and yeah, Scouron, he's got this one. I don't want to say in the bag, because you know anything can happen, but he's got pole position, he's got a lead. It's going to take a pretty big miracle for Prosciutto to bring this one home. He needs to win, and of course Scouron to be in P8 or lower. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, but anything can happen.
Anything can happen indeed, and hopefully they put on a really nice race. I'm interested to see how Cosmo is going to come about this, because he knows that when he sort of was battling Scovron, he can afford to finish lower down, whereas Prosciutto, he has to finish this race. So from the mentality side of it, it's going to be quite interesting to see who comes on top. But I think, Zach, it's time to go through the grid order.
Certainly is ahead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. So it was championship leader Damien Scouron who got pole position ahead of Cosmo Prosciutto, joining him on the front row. Mirko Mancini in P3 with Dmitry Zarahov rounding off the second row in P4. Looking further down, it's Thomas Andriami Arisoa in P5 with Luchak in P6. Adam Rainey and Harry Smith in 7th and 8th for Netrex Grand Prix. And then looking down the rest of the grid, we've got Roberto Pignataro P9 with Thomas Smith rounding off the top 10. Kevin Morville in P11 with Davo Branthholm in P12. Further down for P13, it is Liam Howard with Gerard Battler in P14, Tuan Lua in P15 with Indrek Remitz in P16. Not quite on the pace with his Netrex teammates, but still all to play for in the race. Sergio Obra Laurent in P17 with Miram in P18. Tommy Yilatau in P19 with Riboli in P20. And then rounding off the grid is Frank Hamming, his sole, by himself on the back of the grid in P21. He had a good qualifying, but is starting at the back of the field. Then with the drivers on their formation lap, it's going to be a very, very good race ahead of us. Damien Scouron then starting on the soft, so too is Prosciutto. So strategy not playing a factor at the moment, or at least for the first part of the race between the two. They're going to be equal pegging all the way down to turn 1, which is a very, very short run to the first corner. So a good start is going to be very crucial. But for Prosciutto, it's going to be ever crucial to get himself ahead and just get head down and hope that Scouron gets swallowed up a little bit amongst the midfield. Just waiting up for the guys at the back of the field to line themselves up, and we can get ourselves to the 5 red lights ahead of the season finale for SFR. Just waiting out for the green flag, and then of course the 5 red lights to illuminate your screen. Scouron on pole with Prosciutto right next to him. We get ourselves ready then. 43 laps of the race, and we're underway for the season finale. It looks like Scouron got away well, but Prosciutto's already alongside him now, coming towards turn 1. Scouron on the outside, but down the inside goes Prosciutto. He gets the lead. Scouron having to tuck back in and maybe go for the switcheroo, and he's going to be tucked up nicely in the slipstream coming down towards turn 4. This back straight, he's going to be tucked up nicely. Prosciutto takes the lead, but Scouron's closing, pulls to the left-hand side, and is going to get him towards turn 4. Can Prosciutto leave him to dry around the outside? The two championship rivals have collided. They're off at turn 4, and that's someone else off the back. But the absolute chaos off the first lap, and Prosciutto needs to get himself going. Scouron as well, but this could not have been more of a chaotic start, Cam.
That is absolutely what these two drivers didn't want. They are fighting for the championship, and then they come together. This actually helps Skovron, obviously, because Prosciutto needs to win the race, and he's going to have a huge task to do from that. And after all this, it is your AMA champion of the season, Mirko Mancini, who is now leading the way, stepping up into the Academy Championship, and that is not how these drivers would have wanted to start the race. And there's some other drivers out. Liam Howard Zaharov is out of the race. Thomas Smith has lost his front wing, so we'll try and get some replays of that.
Absolutely chaotic start, but yeah, as you say, plays into the hands very nicely. There's more contact between the Netrex GP car, I think, of Adam Rainey and Frank Hamming, but yeah, Mancini leading the way, doing a very good job on his Academy debut. He's joined with Andrea Miosoa in P2, with Lawyer P3, Harry Smith in P4, with Gerard Battler rounding off the top 5. Taking a look at some of the replays now. What happened with Mancini? This is a replay of the start on board, then with Adam Rainey, what happened to him? So it looks like a very chaotic start all throughout the grid. Gets a decent start, looking to the outside, down the inside, and he just gets tagged from behind, spinning round, gets collected by the Royal Blue Racing car, and off at turn 1. So not the way a lot of drivers would have wanted this the race to start, but still a long way to go, and they just need to get their heads down and start doing it, especially for Prosciutto.
Yeah, these guys having a pretty nightmare start. We'll just try and see some of these drivers, see what they did coming into this turn number 1, but you can see just a number of drivers there going off and having multiple issues there, which is not the best to see. But let's get a bit of a replay here from Cosmo Prosciutto coming into turn number 4. He's going to have down the inside of him is going to have Skovron. Did he leave just enough room? I would say he probably did just leave enough room. So let's see from Skovron's on board. What did he do coming into turn 4? Did he miss the apex, or is this a bit more of a racing incident? Let's just have a look. Both braking late. Oh, that is very tight on the apex of turn 4. Very, oh God, look at all those cars trying to come past and go around him. He did very well to hold that tight. But yeah, difficult to say. Possibly leaning towards Skovron maybe, but certainly very tight between those two drivers.
Yeah, and I think going into turn 4, you can go side by side pretty easily. So yeah, between the two, I think it was more Scouron. I mean, you can't really go for half-hearted moves at Brazil anywhere. So he sort of went for it, sort of backed out, and Prosciutto was ahead, took his race line, gave enough room, and just unfortunate that the contact, very marginal contact as well, saw them both spin round, but they've still got a long way to go at the moment. It is Prosciutto in P8. He's on an absolute charge, and I think they've both managed to get away scot-free in terms of damage, but it's going to be all about who can get themselves to the front of the pack. And for Prosciutto, with Scouron in P15, it's going to be head down and just charge. He's on the back of Remits for P7, and he's got those soft compound tyres to really aid him in that. He's tucked up in the slipstream, will get a good run off the final corner and towards turn 1, and of course that soft tyre grip really going to be helping him out with Remits going to be quite slow. He does defend to the left-hand side. Prosciutto to the outside. Can he brake late enough? Should be able to with that grip, but looks like Remits is going to defend this one just enough to stay ahead. But don't forget, Prosciutto's got that run through turn 3, and then, of course, all the way down this back straight towards turn 4, where, well, just a couple of laps previously, he tangled with his championship rival. Defending once more goes Remits. Prosciutto to the outside. Will it end in chaos like it did last time? He goes for it. The Netrex edges him all the way out to the edge of the track. So Remits very racy with the man in second place.
Yeah, he's got to do this, because if you remember, we said P7 for Skovron, but that was assuming that Prosciutto won the race. So 16 points is the difference between the two. So obviously, if he can get himself into a good position, if Skovron stays down in the lower points, then that is obviously going to be helping him out later on when we get towards thinking about the points later on. Anyway, so for now, he just needs to get these positions one at a time, and this is quite an important one because Remits is on those hard tyres and the gap ahead of him is really starting to open up, so Prosciutto needs to focus on trying to get the Netrex driver.
Yeah, he needs to get through as quickly as he can to avoid being held up and managing to utilise these soft tyres as he can. Remit defends the middle of the track. Prosciutto pulls to the right-hand side, is going to go for it, sends it on the brakes and around the outside. It's the inside for turn 2. The Netrex gives him the space, but still fighting it all the way around the outside. So close to contact between the two, and Prosciutto keeps his foot in around the outside, but has to tuck in behind the slipstream. Remit's really defending this hard, well, despite the fact he's on the slower tyres. Prosciutto once more around the outside is going to go for the switch through and try and go underneath him. Adam Rainey and Branthal swapping places further back as well, but on the run up towards turn number 6, Prosciutto once more behind, and he's got a train of drivers behind, and what he doesn't want is to get swallowed up amongst them.
Oh yeah, there's got all these cars coming behind with Remits being on that alternate strategy, and this is going to turn into a bit of chaos if he doesn't get past too soon. But I just wanted to quickly see if we could see a replay. One of the DNFs at the beginning was Liam Howard. I wanted to see if we could work out how he's going to do that, because unfortunately he just got collected by one of the HM Engineering drivers. I think that was Frank Hamming, and that's how he DNF'd. So that was a bit unfortunate for him. Let's see if Prosciutto can do anything coming down to turn 1.
Yeah, he's tucked up once more, pulls to the right-hand side once again. Remit's really defending this well. Prosciutto goes for it around the outside. Can he utilise that soft tyre grip once more? Deja vu. It's going to be the inside for turn 2, but the Netrex driver just about edges his way ahead, and now Adam Rainey on the back and looking to put pressure on Prosciutto. He doesn't care about the championship. He pulls himself to the left-hand side, being squeezed all the way, though. Bit of contact to the rear diffuser. Can Adam Rainey send it up the inside? He does. Goes over the curb a little bit. Prosciutto on the outside. Rainey with a massive tank slapper, just about managing to catch that. I thought we were in Brazil, not Tokyo, with that sort of drift, but well held from Adam Rainey there, and I think Kevin Morville looking to get himself involved on Branthal and get himself into the top 10. But Prosciutto, yeah, he's got a lot of pressure. He needs to get through. But Remits is just making that car so wide. It's all aboard the Remits train at the moment.
Yeah, that hard tyre is really slowing him down, as you would expect, with the way that the hard tyre is obviously designed. But that gap ahead of him getting ever bigger, and Prosciutto needs to make sure he's not getting too impatient with this, actually, because that is always something that can happen. And Skovron's actually making some positions, but now Prosciutto is actually getting up the inside before we get to those final couple of kinks, and that's going to put him in a good position. But once again, it's going to be the outside that he's going to have to do. Going to have to brake really late to try and get down the inside of turn number 2. But instead, he's actually going to try and set this up for a bit of a move into turn 4, which looks pretty good as well.
Yeah, he's playing the long game, and as you said, cannot make any rash judgments. He's got a championship to think about. He cannot be fighting too hard over P7 and just pick his moments. But here comes Adam Rainey, sails up the inside. We've always seen that Netrex are really good in a straight line. He's going to go for not one but 2 moves down the inside of both of them and gets his way through. Now side by side with his teammate up towards turn number 6. Adam Rainey on the outside of one of the fastest corners on the circuit, backs out of that one, and Prosciutto is going backwards in this race rather than forwards, because Remits is doing his teammates a massive favour. So Adam Rainey up into P8 and putting that pressure on Remits. That was a valiant effort, but Prosciutto is coming back at him to the inside of turn number 9 as they Constantino Ray towards turn number 10. So Prosciutto, yeah, it's not going his way. He needs to pick his moments and try and find a way through. But Rainey is just doing an incredible job of putting that pressure on Prosciutto at the moment. And then, of course, onto his teammate. Gets a nice run off the final corner. Now going to run side by side with him. Rainey, very slippery in a straight line, even at an aerodynamic demanding track such as Interlagos. Prosciutto tucked up. He's going to try and follow Rainey through, maybe even go 3 abreast. Going to go to the middle. He's going to be sandwiched between the two Eric's drivers. They're 3 abreast towards turn 1. Prosciutto through the middle. Adam Rainey on the inside. He backs out of that one. The two Netrix going side by side. What a race this is. Prosciutto then trying to squeeze his way up the inside of Remitz. He doesn't quite manage to get his way through. And now Kevin Morville trying to get involved. They're going to be nearly squabbling all the way down the straight. Prosciutto squeezing Morville all the way to the inside. But Morville now getting his way up the inside. Prosciutto around the outside, still trying to hold on. But he goes backwards once more. This is an absolute nightmare for Prosciutto.
Especially as Skovron is right on the back of this now, and he's up into that 11th place. He's been picking off a couple of cars here and there, and he's now only a few positions behind Prosciutto, which is really not what he wants when he needs to be gaining that 16 points. So he really actually needs to be finishing on the podium today. Does Prosciutto have any sort of chance of actually winning this title? And this is not going to be helping him getting overtaken by Morva, who's also on those hard compound tyres. So this is really just making matters a little bit worse for him. And unfortunately, he's going to have to stick there for a little bit longer and try and get past the cars once again.
Yeah, he's just got to pick his way through, and losing that position to Morville was a really big blow, of course, as you say. He's on that hard compound tyre. Morville defends, Prosciutto going to the right-hand side. We've seen how good he is around the outside, but not quite going to be able to brake late enough. Morville locks up on his front left and just manages to edge his way ahead, and Branthel now putting that pressure on. So still all aboard the Remitz train. Rainey, I think, has managed to sail off into the sunset a little bit further ahead and try and chase after Laurent for P5. But yeah, Prosciutto, he needs to get his way through. He's stuck in this dirty air, and it's not going to be doing his tyres any good. This is a replay of Lawyer now coming off of turn 10, just gets over that curb a little bit, and it's going to be very slippery, and that's another DNF to add to the total very early on in this race.
Yeah, he was in a really good position as well, and we haven't really looked at the front for quite a while, so we'll just have a quick look. Mancini leading the way by over 4 seconds from the two Royal Blue Racings of Andriama Harizoa and Gerard Batella. So that is a very good result for the Royal Blue guys, but it's not their man that they would have wanted. They would have wanted Cosmo Prosciutto, who is still stuck in this 9th position in this little bit of a train, and hopefully he's going to be able to work his way up. But for now, he's still going to have to try and get through these two drivers head on those hard compound tyres.
Yeah, and you would expect him to sort of blitz his way through, and he's now actually going to be diving his way into the pit lane off those softs. He's following, is that Rainian or Remitz coming in as well? So yeah, Remitz and Prosciutto both boxed. So they're coming in maybe for an undercut, trying to get some clear air and utilise that pace instead of actually, forcing their way through with the overtake. So yeah, Prosciutto coming in. What tyres is he going to go for? Is he going to go for another soft stint? Is he going to use his hard stint now and have a really quick end to the race? But Scouron stays out on those hard tyres. No, he come in, I think, a lap earlier to try and get that undercut. So yeah, Scouron, he just needs to bring this home. He needs to hope that Prosciutto doesn't blitz his way to the front of the pack and pick his way through it and bring home some decent points.
Yeah, so Skovron actually did, that worked really well. Pitted earlier, and look how many cars he's ahead of Prosciutto now. I think that's 4 cars he is ahead of Prosciutto. That has worked out really well for him indeed. So that strategy has been good. But now Prosciutto once again trying to get past Indrek Remitz, who held him up for the stint. And now they're on the same tyres, and he's still ahead of him. So hopefully this will be a little bit easier, as I think it's Thomas Smith who is off with some damage there on the exit of turn number 4. So let's try and see what happens to the Team Felix driver.
Yeah, coming in towards turn 4, gets a little bit on the grass, goes over that curb. That sausage is lethal, then runs over the Astro. Big snap of oversteer, and then into the wall, and that's him out of the race. I think his rear left has completely disconnected from the suspension. So those AstroTurfs are really lethal. You get over that green, and there's just no grip on the rear tyres, and that just sends it spinning around. But on board now with Prosciutto, can he get through a little bit easier this time? The Netrix squeezing him all the way to the wall, but he fills the space. It's going to be the inside for turn 1 this time. He's on a very tight line. Remitz pulls out very, very late to open up the corner for him, and that allows him to stay just about ahead. So Prosciutto still having to tuck up behind him, and Remitz is doing Scouron a very, very big favour once again, defending to the inside. Prosciutto tucked up in the slipstream, pulls to the left-hand side, bit of contact between the two. He's gone wide, and he's just about managed to keep that out of the wall because that could have been an absolutely huge crash, but he's managed to hold it, and he needs to get his head down and recover that ground. Remitz is just making that car so wide.
Yeah, Reem's doing a really good job of defending. And as you say, it's just helping this man, Damien Skovrom. And it's working out pretty well for him so far. Unfortunately, obviously he's not battling for the race win, as we mentioned. Obviously, when you want to win a championship, winning the race to do so is obviously the best feeling that you can get. However, just finishing ahead of Prosciutto will be enough for him, which he is doing at the moment in that P12. But obviously making the pit stop, he's in a bit potentially out of place. There's going to be some positions that he can make up a bit later on in the race. But there's also some good fights a little bit further up from the guys who are still out there. And some guys that we maybe haven't seen so much at the top of the season so far.
Yeah, no, it's really spiced things up, hasn't it? I mean, we've got the AMA champion at the front on his, I'm assuming, debut for Academy. So he's doing an incredible job, really showing that some of these teams that, you know, he can do very well, even winning the championship in the lower categories and then coming up and showing what he can do. Of course, credit to both championship rivals for crashing each other out, but he's there to pick up the points. You know, they always say that you have to create your own luck in motorsport, and he's done exactly that. And even then, you know, he's got seasoned people behind him. He's got both Royal Blue cars in second and third, and he's opened the gap 5.3 seconds now. So he's doing a great job. He's just got to keep consistent, not let it get to his head, and just focus on the job ahead of him. I mean, he's the champion, so he's got to be used to leading. But he's just got to keep his cool and stay ahead, play the long game, play the strategy to perfection. Still a long way to go, around about 30 and a half laps left to go.
Yeah, can't get complacent when you're in a good position. That is certainly something that maybe some people don't always think about when it comes to the whole sim racing side of things. It can be quite difficult to get used to being in these positions. You want to make sure that you're doing obviously the best job that you can, but sometimes the pressure side of it is really what starts to get some of these drivers when they get there. But for the likes of Mancini, already being a champion in a different division, coming up to here, first of all doing a good job, but also just in general being used to being at the front.
Yeah, he's not just doing a good job, he's doing an absolutely stellar job at the front. So, yeah, really showing the teams what he can do. And as you say, cannot get complacent at all, but a good little scrap between second and third, Andrea Mierisoa and Batala. Both teammates fighting for the podium places, as you said earlier, not the Royal Blues that the team would want on the podium, perhaps, when their teammate is fighting for the championship and is down in P16. So, yeah, not the day both championship rivals would have wanted, but I don't think Damien's complaining too much because, yeah, at least now he's still winning the championship. But yeah, Batala now managing to close that gap to Thomas in front, and he's just going to try and edge his way ahead, maybe get himself onto that second place.
Batala's had a few good races here and there, but over the course of the last 2-3 seasons in FSR, he's really struggled to be consistently at the front. He's often making a few mistakes here and there. So hopefully, especially when he's battling with his teammate, who Andrea Mierisoa is also having another good result. Once again, he's a good driver, but he's never really been consistently at the front. So hopefully these two drivers can keep it on the road and not taking each other out. But for now, Batala not quite close enough to really be making it.
No, not quite close enough. And yeah, as you say, the first rule of motorsport is do not crash into your teammate at all. That is always the worst thing you can do. So hopefully they can keep it clean and give us a good little scrap between the two. But yeah, as you say, they're always there to pick up the pieces, but not consistently there, you know, setting the timing sheets ablaze because, yeah, I think that's down to Prosciutto and Scouron to do. And these guys, and when things go wrong, they're there to pick up the pieces. And that's exactly what they've done now. They're consistent enough to do that. And they've got the pace, but just not quite enough to do it on a consistent basis. So yeah, we'll see how they get on. And Harry Smith not too far behind this, so he could see himself onto the podium. Harry Smith had a really good start to the season, if you look back to San Marino. But after that, just sort of plateaued a little bit, went down and plateaued. And then he's really had another swing of good results and currently sits P4 for the Brazilian Grand Prix and still a long way to go. So we'll have to see how they got on. Of course, still a lot of people to have their first round of pit stops as well.
Yeah, the fuel tank can go quite far, but as we've always, Prosciutto actually trying to go get past Rimitz once again outside of turn number 4. Can he finally do this? Although he's going to lose a bit of traction on the exit there and still struggling to get past Rimitz. Indeed, but yeah, we've seen some of those drivers such as Smith have those good performances, as you say, but then just drop off a little bit. It's so difficult to be consistent over the course of the whole season. That is one reason why these guys at the front always do so well. And Batala coming in because, yeah, the fuel tank can do about 19-20 laps. So you've got plenty of opportunity. But in the Academy Championship, you have so much freedom with when you make your 2 pit stops because of the fuel tank, as we mentioned previously, is just shy of the race distance. You can probably do 39-40 laps, and therefore you need to do those extra 3 or 4 laps somewhere. So you generally split that across the race, and then that gives you these big pit stop windows. And Patella has come out in that 9th place, but he's got some seconds up the road to Yalitalo as well. So if he pushes on this outlap, he might be able to get his teammate.
Yeah, exactly. He's got some nice clear air, and that's always what you want on the outlap. That's why you really have to time your pit stops well to not come out in the traffic, because it's been quite difficult to overtake. We've seen that with Prosciutto not being able to get past Remit, so you do not want to get stuck behind Andrea Miarisoa boxing this lap to cover off that undercut. But those fresh tyres of Battaglia are really going to help him along with that clear air. So I think it's going to be a straight race between the two. The gap wasn't that big when Battaglia come into the pit lane, so it's going to be extremely, extremely close. We'll have to see what Thomas does, whether he goes for a second soften or he goes and gets rid of his hard tyres. He's going to... Are those white walls going on?
Yep.
Yeah,
hard tyres for Andrea Maharazoa, whereas Battaglia was on the soft compound tyres. So let's see as it comes up to the start finish line now into the first sequence of corners. Where is he going to come out towards regards to his teammate? Looks like Andrea Maharazoa is actually going to be just a step ahead, actually, with Battaglia all the way back there, only at the start of the straight. So this has actually worked out really well, and maybe Andrea Maharazoa took a little bit less fuel. Yeah, he took 4 seconds less fuel than Battaglia, which indicates the gap, but the gap is just less than 4 seconds actually. So Battaglia probably would have had the undercut there, but a bit of strategy from Andrea Maharazoa, trying to go a bit shorter on this stint, means he's going to keep this track position.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the hard, so you want to sort of run your hard tyre stint a little bit shorter to spend less time off the slower tyre. And if you can spend more time on a faster tyre, then you're going to do quite well. Of course, that's not always the case because the softs degrade quite a lot. This is race leader now heading into the pit lane for his first stop. So Harry Smith inherits the race lead ahead of Laurent. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting strategy between the two Royal Blues. And yeah, it's gonna be a good one. Of course, Battaglia still needs to go for the hard tyres, and he's going to be on the hard tyres at the end of the race, whereas Thomas is going to be on the soft tyres. So he's going to be quicker at the end. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be interesting between the net P2 and 3 of the Royal Blue Boys.
And Andrea Maharazoa is only about 3 seconds or so behind Mancini because of this, but he is on that hard tyre. So I do think this gap is going to potentially increase a little bit over the course of this stint, but we'll have to see if how the strategy works out for the second stop as well.
Yeah, so I mean that's the thing, we don't really know what the right strategy is until maybe 1 or 2 laps from the end, because yeah, they're so different. You have different gaps at different stages of the race where you think, is he going to close that gap? Yeah, he is, or he doesn't actually manage to close the gap when you think he could. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. A long way to go. We're now approaching halfway through the race, so it's going to be a good one. We've had excitement, we've had drama all the way through so far, and hopefully we can carry that through. Prosciutto still on the back of Remits, in fact, really unable to get his way through. Now they're on equal tyres, and even when he was advantaged, he couldn't find a way through. So yeah, definitely favouring Damien Scouron at the moment, who just has to bring it home. If he spins and crashes, it's down to Prosciutto to get himself into, I think, P8, P7 to secure the championship.
Well, for Prosciutto, he actually needs to really finish on the podium because P3 is 17 points. So he needs to gain 16, although if they tie, Scovron will win on countback because he's won more races. So yeah, he really needs to finish on the podium actually for Prosciutto to have any sort of chance. And just looking at Scovron, so he's about 32 seconds off the lead, whereas Prosciutto, still stuck behind Remits, is now 40 seconds off the lead. So after Prosciutto being about 5-6 places ahead of Scovron on lap 2, he's now about 8 seconds behind him, which is just crazy how he's just been running his own race, but just with where he's been on the track position, getting stuck behind people, etc., he's lost so much time compared to his championship rival.
Yeah, and Prosciutto hasn't been used to this pack racing amongst the midfield that we've seen all season long. I mean, we've seen all throughout the season the midfield have been so close, and Prosciutto and Scouron have just been in their own world at the front, so they haven't had the experience on how to get through. So yeah, for Prosciutto, it's been an abnormal experience as Laurent is reversing down the pit lane. What's happened here? Has it been a double? Do they have individual pit boxes, or do they have to double?
No. So wait, where is he? What is he doing?
This is a weird one.
I
think he might
have gone past his pit box, He's probably trying to find it. The issue is if he reverses too far, he will get a disqualification from the game. So hopefully it's not too far back. But I think he's missed his pit box, and maybe he's been DQ'd, I believe. Yeah,
Oh, no.
Laurent has been DQ'd. So that is pretty unfortunate for him because obviously he was in a really nice position. He had something to do. Let's see. Oh, sorry, this is actually a replay. Let's see what he's going to do when he comes into this pit lane. I think his teammate was in the pit box because they do share, direct teammates do share. So I think that's his pit box, but he doesn't quite notice it, goes a little bit past and then gets a bit confused. And then you saw what happened next. So that is a really unfortunate situation because he would have not wanted to see that, as Adam Rainey now is trying to get past Brantholm in the hairpin, which is a really unorthodox place to go around the outside, but I think he's just about managed to do that. So Adam Rainey there up into that 9th place, but unfortunately Adam Rainey's teammate Laurent is out of this race.
A very abnormal thing to see as well. We were just talking about abnormalities with Prosciutto being stuck behind people. I think he's actually managed to get his way through and sail off now. He had the pace, just couldn't quite find a way through. Now, Brantholm trying to come back at Rainey, but he's managed to hold on just about and is now setting his sights forward on Kevin Morville. But yeah, Laurent, that's a weird one. He might need a pit lane map or something for next season. But that's a harsh way to end the season, isn't it? I mean, you want to end it on a high, and unfortunately for now, I think that 5 people there, it's not going to be the case, and they've ended it with a DNF or a DSQ, as we've seen with Laurent. So it's a shame, but they've always got next season.
Yeah, they certainly do, but it's just not the nicest thing. Not the nicest thing to see. Unfortunately, when a driver gets into that situation. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just with his teammate being in, and it looked like all those 3 NetRex cars were coming in at the same time, and the teams are maximum of 4, but as the pit stops work out, they're divided into 2 sets of 2. And as 3 of them came in at once, there's obviously going to be someone who was sharing with one or the other. And unfortunately, on that occasion, it was Laurent, and he is going to be out of this race. So let's see what his teammate Rainey can do. He's actually pulled away from Brantholm on this lap, trying to get up inside the top 7 now, with Kevin Morville just ahead of him as some more people make a pit stop. And after all of this, Damien Scovron is up into 5th place on strategy, legitimately, and that just shows you how good this guy is. We'll have to see how his strategy works out at his 2nd pit stop, if that is going to maybe loosen some time. We'll have to see.
Regardless, just the fact he's up there from being spun round and behind his championship rival on lap 1, he's now brought it back to even a provisional P5. It's really good because he hasn't been involved in any skirmishes. Well, obviously the one on lap 1, but he's driven his own race, got his head down, just been consistent, hasn't been making any rash judgments, just up behind, done his own thing, being consistent, now running his race and kept his composure, which is, I think, what makes him so worthy to be in the position he is now, where he is comfortably at the moment going to win the championship. Still a long way to go, but I think that's one of the qualities you need to have as a champion, even when things don't go your way, to have the composure to bring it back and try and stay in front. Is this a replay of when Prosciutto managed to get past Remitz? He's on the outside of turn 4 and a bit of contact, but he's just about managed to edge his way ahead. Oh no, this was the replay of the lap 1 incident, wasn't it, between the 2 championship rivals, which saw this whole race being thrown up into turmoil.
Yeah, no, there was actually Remitz and Prosciutto having a bit of contact, and that is actually how Prosciutto got past. So, but it was basically identical to that.
Literally identical.
Yeah, so it actually looked the same. But Prosciutto twice then having some contact in that corner. He is now up into 9th place, but he is now 13 seconds behind his championship rival, who is up into 5th place. So, yeah, certainly not the race that Prosciutto would have wanted, especially to finish the season when, as we mentioned already, Prosciutto, Scovron, they've just been trading those wins for quite a few races now, but unfortunately that run is probably going to be coming to an end unless Scovron can find a way of finding 15 seconds in the second half of this race.
If there's a man that can do it, it's Scowron, isn't it? Because he's just been so good. But I think it's going to be unlikely. But I mean, we've had weirder things happen this race, so we'll have to wait and see. Adam Rainey now P7, trying to chase after Kevin Morville. He's ahead of the man he's equal in points with, Brantholm. So he at the moment will take the P5 in the standings. But for Rainey, he's just had such a good run of form recently, and Prosciutto now coming into the pit lane for his second stop. Will he get to the end on hards and a tank of fuel?
Yeah, this will be basically the first lap that you'd really want to do to the end of the race. 20 laps. So that is going to be a full tank of hard. So he's going to be the slowest that he can be, if that makes sense, because he's on the slowest tyres and he's on the most amount of fuel that he can take. So I don't think the strategy's really worked out for Prosciutto today. He obviously wanted to do 2 fast, soft stints at the beginning of the race, but unfortunately, those stints where he could have been fast, he was being held up by remits pretty much for the whole time. So just not really the strategy that he would have wanted, because he's going to be just that little bit slower towards the end of the race now.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're sort of, that's why you maybe want to take the hard tyres towards the start, especially at a track where you might find it difficult to overtake, because you're going to be in the same traffic as everyone else. So you might as well get the hard tyres out of the way. This is Rainey looking to the inside of Morville. What a send that is. Finds the space on the inside, gets it stopped just about, but Morville's going to try and set up the double switcheroo to come back at him. He's going to be in the slipstream through turn 3. He's very, very close. Rainey defends the left-hand side. Morville's going to pull to the right-hand side. He's going to try out Rainey, squeezes him all the way to the outside. Morville going to try and sweep his way all the way around the outside, but can't quite, because Rainey claims the corner and gets himself into the top 6. Very good overtakes from Rainey, and that is what we've seen all season long from him, especially since his recent run of form since joining Netrex, as we've said quite a few times. He's doing an absolutely stellar job, isn't he? Yeah,
Netrex have really helped his growth as a driver. He was always just slowly getting there. He was with HM Engineering / Invictus last season, and I believe it was AFP he was at the beginning of this season, and he's just sort of slowly been making those gains. But then as soon as he's gone to Netrex obviously been one of the main teams, especially in the junior championships this year, with Noah Roivers winning the Pro Championship, for instance, and them having quite a big factor here as well. They've really pushed Rainey forward, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets himself into a pro car next season maybe as well, because it's certainly been improving quite a lot as Skovron comes in for his pit stop, but he's going to have those soft tyres towards the end of the race, so he's certainly going to have a bit more speed advantage from Prosciutto. So I think Prosciutto, unless Skovron is making some crazy DNF and Prosciutto has a miracle, I think this is probably championship over.
Yeah, I think it's slipping away from him, hasn't it? I mean, ever since he was stuck behind remits, I mean, he had the opportunity to come through. He was up in P7, but when he just got stuck in that traffic, fell back, lost his momentum. And once you get overtaken once and you're in a pack, you often find that you get overtaken maybe once or twice more, because you lose that rhythm and it takes you a couple of laps to actually get it back. And once you start getting overtaken, you just have that cycle reset where you have to then once again just Control Alt Delete and reset yourself. So for Prosciutto, it's a shame. And his strategy as well hasn't been the best. I mean, it arguably could have been the quicker strategy had he not been caught up in traffic, but he just hasn't had the clear air. And yeah, that's why he's down in P15. And as you say, the championship very much slipping away from him. But miracles happen, so we never know.
They certainly do, but unfortunately, Prosciutto, looking down there, I know he's already obviously made an extra pit stop compared to Mancini, but he's almost a minute off the lead now. So that's still going to be in the region of 30 seconds. Maybe 35 seconds when Mancini comes in. So yeah, not the way the seed would have wanted to finish the season, as we got Remits and Yolitalo come in as well. But Mancini controlling the race very nicely at the front there. 6-second lead to Andrea Maharazoa, who, despite being on the hard tyres, has been able to keep his teammate behind him.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. Atala not being able to bridge that gap very well, considering the fact he's on this softer compound tyre. So maybe the hard and soft haven't got that as big of a delta as we've seen at other tracks. Maybe they're quite evenly matched perhaps, or only slightly slower. So yeah, Andrea Maharazoa doing a great job, but so too is Mancini at the front doing an even stellar job, 6.1 seconds over some seasoned guys such as Batala and Thomas. So he's doing a great job, and he's on a decent strategy that set him up to the end of the race. But don't forget, the top 3, I do believe, still have to pit again.
Yes, they do. But the thing is, because they're going so much further into the race, they're going to have a shorter pit stop, and that is going to obviously help them with less time, and then their car will be lighter towards the end of the race as well. So sometimes the undercut is better because you have obviously the fresh tyres, you can use that. But also, if you stay out way longer, 5-6 laps longer, then you just save so much time and then have such a lighter car. That can often be a very good strategy as well. So these guys, especially this top 3, they're a bit of a step away from the guys just behind them with Smith and Rainey. So I think they're looking pretty set with that strategy that they are on. And it's always good to see some different strategy calls, actually, because it's always good when you see the drivers just trying something different.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the season finale. I mean, there's not much on offer apart from the full-on championship, which is sort of sealed and done now. So you might as well try something different. I mean, it might help you if we ever come to Interlagos again. So try those things, try something different, and see if it works. But yeah, we've got a very diverse strategy on the field today. So it's going to be one that can really come down to the end, I think, on the sort of lap 35, lap 40 sort of thing. So it's going to be an interesting one. And as you say, having that lighter car, having the fresher tyres as well is going to be a massive advantage if you just decide to maybe stretch your stint 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 laps longer. So it could be an interesting one, but we'll have to see what the top 3 do. I think it could be anyone's game.
I certainly could between those guys. We saw how that the gap between Andrea Maharazoa and Battaglia went up to about 4 seconds after the pit stop. But despite that, Battaglia hasn't been able to work that back. So this might actually work out quite well, as speaking of him, Andrea Maharazoa is coming into the pit lane for that final stop. And we saw, we assumed this because he took such a short stop for that middle stint, which is how he gained the time. And he's been able to hold off Battaglia once again. And now let's see how long this stop is. Obviously, he only has those, 14 including this lap to the end of the race. So he's only going to need that much fuel. Obviously, about 3/4 of a tank. That will be for him. And he'll be able to get himself going once again. And now being on those soft compound tyres, whereas I believe Battaglia will be on the hards, that should put him in a good place to try and get this P2.
Yeah, and as we say, we predicted that Thomas would go for a shorter hard stint, of course, fueled up a little bit less. So he's on these softs for, to be fair, not that long, only 14 laps. So he's got maybe a little bit heavier fuel load than Battaglia will when he comes into the pit lane, but Battaglia's going to be on the hard. So it will sort of level itself out maybe between the two. So we'll have to see how they get on. But Thomas, I think he's definitely got the pace. And I mean, but the hards and the softs, they've sort of been quite equal. So Battaglia on the hards might not be that big of a disadvantage. So I think it's now crunch time for him to sort of open that gap up as much as he can to avoid the undercut from his teammate. But yeah, I think definitely going to come down to the end. Damien Scouron on board with him now, only a couple of seconds off Luchak, and he's on the soft, so he's closing and he's just trying to bridge back some points after his spin on the first lap, and he's doing a mighty job. He's just been consistent, and when you look at how Prosciutto's race has gone, Scouron has definitely been the better man.
Oh yeah, he certainly has, and he's only about 6 or so seconds behind Andrea Maharazoa, and Battaglia's obviously going to be in there somewhere. So Skowron, if he's really fast, might be able to sneak a podium if something happens to those guys ahead. As we have some more pit stops. Oh, there's going to be a crash there in the pit lane. Branholm's spinning up the rear tyres. He's going to put Morville in the wall. They're somehow still going. So they are very fortunate from that regard. But I wouldn't be surprised if they have some damage.
100%. I think because of the lower speed, of course, the pit lane speed limit, they sort of got away with not being terminal damage there. But I think we're going to grab a replay of it. Devo, he just spins up the rears, goes sideways off the pit box, and Morville tries to avoid, but there's a wall there, and he found it pretty damn quickly. So for Morville, I reckon both cars definitely damaged to the end, and that's just an unfortunate turn of events. But we'll have to see how they fare for the rest of this race. But that's definitely a shame. We've got the race leader, Mancini, and Battaglia both into the pit lane for their final stops of the race. Has Mancini taken hards already? I think both of these guys might have to go for the hards. Yeah, Mancini onto the hards, and so too is Battaglia. So going to be Andrea Maharazoa chasing these guys down on his fresher tyres, and we're going to be seeing where he comes out in relative to them. I mean, it's going to be close, I reckon, with him and his teammate, and with the soft tyres, he's going to be chasing after him, so it could be close.
So it looks like it's flip-flopped this way once again. So now Battaglia has had that shorter pit stop. So he's actually got back ahead of his teammate. So Andrea Maharazoa, we thought, was in a really good position. But despite having the undercut as well, he was not able to keep onto that second position. So that's quite interesting. So he's actually going to have to chase down and overtake his teammate. Obviously, Battaglia being on the hard tyres. But that is a bit less of a comfortable situation that he would have wanted to be in. He would have wanted to easily be in that second place. But unfortunately for him, he's now got some overtaking to do.
Yeah, he's on the back foot now, and he needs to get his head down. I mean, Battaglia going to be on the lighter car. It's going to be a little bit more agile through the corners, but Thomas has the softer compound, so I think it's going to be a straight fight on pure pace between the two. So I have to see Thomas now on the charge. Has been the probably one of the first times during this race he's been behind his teammate. So yeah, he's got to get his head down, and for Battaglia, it's just defend and try and make that car as wide as possible when/if Thomas closes up. So for the last 11 laps of this race, it's going to be the two Royal Blues fighting over that P2, and hopefully it's going to make Mancini, or for his sake, he's going to make his life a little bit easier, because a 7-second gap is not a given in motorsport.
Oh, it certainly isn't, but also Skovron's making some inroads on the other Royal Blue of Luxak, although I believe Luxak is still to make another pit stop. I believe he's only made one pit stop so far, but Skovron really doing a good job, because this will be effectively that fourth position, depending on where Smith comes out. Could be quite close to Smith, actually. We'll have to see on that one when the NetRex driver makes his pit stop. But yeah, Skovron doing a very good job so far, and really getting himself back. Because remember, he was actually basically last on the road, because in that on lap 1, because in that replay he pretty much had to wait for everyone to come past him before he could rejoin the track. So obviously there was a couple of DNFs as well involved in that one, but still very good job for him to get back through all of those drivers. And now it is the turn of Andrea Maharazoa to try and get back this, what will be net P2.
Yeah, as the pit stops sort themselves out, it will be the fight for P2. The gap now just over 0.5 of a second, as Battaglia goes very wide on the exit of turn 3. That's going to allow Thomas to make a little bit of an inroad. Not quite going to be close enough for turn 4, but every little helps as you close the gap. He's going to be a little bit close from the slipstream. Of course, that the hole in the air that Battaglia is punching, allowing Thomas to have that little bit extra top speed down the straight. Of course, no DRS in these Formula cars, so it's all down to pure engine power and slipstream to find your way through on the straight. So Andrea Maharazoa, he just needs to stay close, try not to let that dirty air affect him too much, and just close the gap and have a good run off that final corner and try and get himself back into P2. He's definitely got the equipment to do so, and the pace, just needs to keep it clean.
Yeah, he does, but we just saw earlier in the race with their teammate Peugeot struggling to get past Remits on the hard tyres. So I don't think this is going to be an easy overtake. And we do know that Battaglia is a aggressive driver, let's say, with his defending as well. So hopefully the two teammates keep it nice and clean. But they do have Adam Rainey just ahead of them, who is still yet to pit as well.
Yeah, you could definitely play a factor. It depends how hard Rainey is going to fight this one. He's still yet to pit, so I wouldn't imagine too hard, but he's definitely given a nice little slipstream to Battaglia. That's going to be helping him now. That's Scouron getting past Luchak, and another position in his pocket up into P6. I think we're going to grab a bit of a replay. Very close off the back of the final corner. You go up the hill, and then it sort of levels out as you come through the final couple of corners. Tucked up nice in the slipstream, not that far back, and pulls to the left hand side, gets alongside him down the inside, and Luchak not with really a lot to say about that one. Scouron just brakes late enough. Luchak tries around the outside, but Scouron was always going to claim that position and up into P6. So a fantastic drive from the championship leader, and I think soon to be crowned Academy champion. Thomas all over the back of Battaglia now, who's on the back of Rainey. That could play a bit of a factor if Rainey gets a bit swamped. That's very sideways for Battaglia. That's going to give Thomas a very good run. He's tucked up in the slipstream, but is he going to be close enough to go for the move towards turn 1? We've seen it done from further back. He's closing. Battaglia doesn't defend. Thomas goes to the left-hand side. It's to the inside for turn 1. Can Battaglia sleeve him to try all the way around the outside? He's going to try, but Thomas gets himself in front. Battaglia trying to go for the switcheroo, but I think that's a done deal for Thomas. If Rainey doesn't get involved, he's going to have the slipstream back down towards turn number 4. Can Thomas hang on? Battaglia closing. He's going to pull out the slipstream to stay behind, so I think maybe a bit of teamwork between the two. He goes very wide though, so Battaglia's invited back up the inside. Rainey, as we said, getting involved, and so that's all of Thomas's hard work undone in a split second.
Oh, that was an interesting moment. Rainey's really struggling now, trying to stay out, and Battaglia goes down the inside now into the next corner, which is this double hairpin sequence, which is always really good for some nice racing. Who's going to keep it on the outside now, coming in towards turn number 9. Rainey on the outside. He's going to be able to hold it. His tyres are definitely losing a bit of grip, and Battaglia manages to get past, and that is not going to be helping Andrea Maharazoa, who is obviously coming up behind him now. So Rainey, I think, is just going to be coming into the pit lane very shortly, because he's starting to lose a lot of time. And now I think the other Royal Blue is going to be coming up behind him if he's not too careful.
Yeah, and that's a shame because Batala's now got the car in between him and Rainey stays out another lap, so Thomas is going to have to do it on track. Rainey tucked up in the slipstream, Batala having to defend very close to contact. Rainey gets his way back through around the outside of turn number 1. It's the inside for turn 2. Batala's going to try and keep him pinned. There's contact. Rainey sent round. Angiami Arisoa just about avoids being collected in that one, but that's a shame for Rainey up the inside of turn 2. Batala just squeezes him a little bit too much. Going to grab a replay of it now. Rainey all over the back of him, pulls out very late, goes for it around the outside, is alongside into turn 2, in fact ahead just about as they reach the apex, and then Batala squeezes away, just a bit of understeer and a bit of contact, and that's enough to send him round. And luckily for Thomas, he didn't get collected in that, and he's still on the charge after his teammate. But that's a shame for Rainey because, I mean, should he have thought that? He's got to come into the pit lane, but it's track position. He's allowed to do it, and now Scouron's invited to have a go and get himself into the top 5 as well.
Yeah, Rainey for sure needs to pit. I don't know why he's staying out, because I'd be surprised if you'd want to save the fuel to do a one-stop strategy. So I do believe he has to pit, and he's obviously slow. Like he's been spinning up the tyres, and he's been a bit slow for a while now. Skovron's going to come up behind him. Is Rainey finally going to pit? No, he's not. So Skovron's now going to have to do this on track around the outside. We've seen this happen a few times now, but it hasn't always ended really well, because Rainey now back down the inside. Who is going to get the high ground into turn number 2? Adam Rainey on the outside manages to hold that actually nice and clean, and Skovron's going to have to try again down to turn 4.
Yeah, we've seen it done. The slipstream very strong here in Interlagos. Rainey going to the inside to defend. Scouron now pulling to the right-hand side. Not quite going to be able to go for it. He's going to try and maybe go underneath him on the run up towards turn number 6. But on this occasion, just has to stay behind. Rainey still defending and fighting this one very hard. Scouron looking to the inside, but that's not somewhere you often see people stick their nose in because of the fast nature of the corner. So Rainey hanging on to stay in front. But yeah, if he does have to pit, it's interesting as to why he's fighting this one so hard. But has he taken hard tyres during this race? I think he has, maybe, so he can get to the end in theory, but he's got a lot of fuel saving to do so.
Yeah, it's just beyond the tyre thing. Yeah, actually no, he has used soft twice, so he's going for a really short stint with the hards at the end, but I would assume he's slower now than if he'd already hit for hards. But we'll have to see as Skovron once again goes to the outside of turn number 1. Is he going to be able to do it this time? Second time around, but Adam Rainey very good on the brakes once again. Skovron's actually going to keep it this time side by side into turn number 2. Adam Rainey on the outside though, then gets the inside for turn number 3. Still side by side. Great clean racing from the pair.
Yeah, very good. So they're still going to be wheel to wheel down this back straight towards turn number 4. Scouron on the outside, Rainey on the inside. The fight for P5. Scouron goes for it. Rainey swamped on the curb. They're so close to contact, even a bit of contact as Rainey goes sideways now through turn 5 and up the hill towards turn 6. And Scouron gets his way ahead, but Rainey's not going to let him live this one down. He's absolutely relentless and always tries to fight back. But how much of that relentlessness is going to be halted by the fact that soft compound tires are going to be very, very, very dead. And yeah, he does have to pit. So all this fighting is just hurting not only the people he's fighting's races, but also his own. So it's a weird one, but he's going to go for a very, very short stint. And where would he come out? It's a big gap back to Prosciutto, so probably just behind Frank Hamming, I'm assuming.
Well, we'll have to find out as Smith comes into the pit lane this time round. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rainey does now. But this is an interesting strategy because the last 5 laps, he's just been losing time. So I really don't understand why he didn't just pit even 3-4 laps ago and done a few more laps on the hards, because with such little fuel he would have been quicker than what he was just doing with battling and staying out. So quite an interesting one. But where's Harry Smith come out? He's come out ahead of Skovron, so Skovron hasn't got a nice ECP4 because Harry Smith is going to be very fast with low fuel on those hard compound tyres. And Adam Rainey coming out now. Prosciutto is going to be getting past him, so Prosciutto still getting up into that top 7, which is not going to be quite good enough today for the championship. Now Adam Rainey out of the pit box there in P8.
And just ahead of it is that Morville etching his way just ahead of him. So he's still in a decent points playing position, but could have been more maybe if he'd have come in. That 5 seconds to Prosciutto definitely was lost during the fight. And then, of course, the spin when he was fighting with Batala. So, yeah, shame for Rainey, but still decent points as this is Luchak getting past Raboli very aggressively up the inside of turn 4. And then through turn 5, seals the deal, gets his way ahead. Raboli, bit of a wiggle coming into towards turn number 6 and can't quite find a way through. So Luchak into P13 And just grabbing a replay of it now. This is Luchak through the final corner, very close, tucked up nicely in the slipstream on Raboli. Raboli defending to the inside, so Luchak commits to the outside very early, pulls to the right-hand side, gets his way ahead into the corner, locks the rears though, very big slide. He collects Raboli, and that's a big crash between the two as they both manage to get their way going very, very quickly and very smoothly. But that was Luchak, that was a big slide, and I think he's lucky for that to have not been terminal.
Certainly, that could have been quite a bad incident for him, but fortunately he managed to keep it going, and then obviously get that place on Raboli a bit later on, as well as we just saw. So, bit of an eventful couple of laps for him, and hopefully he can get towards the end of the race nicely now in that 13th place. Just a couple of laps to go here in the season for the Academy Championship. And it looks like it is going to be Skovron who's going to be taking home the championship. But we still need to know who's going to finish in what position on the podium. And it looks like Andrea Maharazoa has finally caught up and is ready to pounce on his teammate.
Yeah, he's very much bridged that gap. He's doing an incredible job really using those soft tyres well, and has managed to close up fairly quickly, in fact, when he got sort of collected by Rainey. No collision, but he just had to back off the throttle and slam on the brakes a little bit to avoid contact. So that definitely hurt his assault a little bit, but he's managed to get back onto the charge, and he's tucked up nicely with around about 1.5 laps left of not only the race, but the season left to go. It's Mancini that leads from Battaglia and Andrea Maharazoa that round off the podium, with Harry Smith and Scouron rounding off the top 5, very close between the two Royal Blues, and it's going to come down to the final lap. He's going to have the slipstream. He's going to have 2 attempts, one into turn 1 and 2, and then one down towards turn 4. So he's definitely got the time. He just needs to get the good run off the final corner, and that's really going to be the deciding factor, I reckon.
And we got Luchak here getting past Brantholm as well, so he's managed to get up that extra position into P12, as we have Mirko Mancini starting the final lap of the season here in the Academy Championship. But who is going to be leading the way out of the two Royal Blues? Andrea Maharazoa on the outside for turn number 1, trying to get a bit of a run as Battaglia locks up. This could be a good slipstream down into turn 4.
Yeah, he's going to have it. He's got a very tight run through turn 3. He's quite close. Is he going to be close enough? Battaglia running very wide, having to defend to the inside. Andrea Maharazoa closing at a rate of knots. Battaglia moves back to the outside. That sort of scared Thomas a little bit, so he's going to have to stay behind for turn 4. He's running out of opportunities now. He's not got much unless it's a straight drag fight down towards the checkered flag. With only around about 10 corners left to go. So Battaglia hanging on very, very well, very much making that Royal Blue racing car very, very wide indeed. So Thomas is not quite able to find a way through, just needs to get as close as he can off that final corner and make it a straight up drag fight, maybe even go wheel to wheel across the line.
But just a bit ahead of them, it is Mirko Mancini, your AMA champion, stepping up to the Academy for a reserve drive for Valor eSports. And he has dominated this race, obviously helped by the crash a little bit earlier, but nothing can be taken away from the pace he's had today. He is going to be winning the final race of the season, but who is going to be getting second? It looks like it's going to be Battaglia beating his teammate on strategy, really, in that final pit stop from Andrea Maharazoa to round out the final podium of the season before Harry Smith and your champion of the season, Damien Skovron. That is enough points for him to secure this Academy Championship. Started the season in AMA, moved up to the Academy Championship, and then has really done a good job. Prosciutto giving it a good effort, but unfortunately finishing P7 will not be enough for him on this day, and having a bit of frustration there, as you would expect, with Adam Rainey finishing in P8. But Zach, that was certainly an eventful way to finish the Academy season.
Yeah, very much dramatic. We had fights up and down the field, so it was a really good way to end off the season. And of course, Scouron doing an incredible drive after the shambles of lap 1. So very much a deserved champion for Academy. And yeah, P5, I think that's really the best he could have gotten. Maybe a P4 if he managed to close the gap to Smith. But yeah, very, very good job from him. And from Prosciutto as well to come home P7, but he just got stuck behind in the early stages, and that really cost him the championship. I think that sealed the deal. But yeah, between the two, they've been two absolute tyrants all season long, as you say, interchanging the wins all throughout, and either of them could have come out on top, but Scouron just got the edge as the two Royal Blue Racings after a stellar battle all throughout the race between the two, second and third. A great way to end off the season, and they're going to be celebrating with some lovely donuts off the exit of turn number 4. So very deserved result for them too as well. They did great, but can we just talk about Mancini, because he did a stellar race coming up from AMA, and to finish first in Academy, that's definitely a statement to the teams.
Oh, definitely. That is something to look out for next season as well. It's a couple of teams and drivers that you might expect to be at the top. But here's a confirmation of those results. Mancini there getting the win for Valor Esports. Then the two Royal Blues in second and third place. So Royal Blue having a really good result there. So they've actually, in general, had a really good season indeed. And I believe Royal Blue Racing are your constructors champions of the season as well. So Skovron will be the drivers champion with Royal Blue for, is that 2 seasons in a row? I think Royal Blue might have won the teams championship last season as well, so that might be 2 seasons in a row for them. They're certainly becoming a force to be reckoned with in the Academy Championship, the junior championships in general of FSR. So congratulations to them finishing the season with that double podium. It's very good indeed. Netrex having a good season all round, getting some decent results here and there. Harry Smith in that P4. Damien Skovron, your champion of the season for the drivers, but his team, Ground Effect, I believe, will be getting that second place in the Constructors Championship as well. So very good for them, and they will be very happy because they didn't even think they'd be in this championship at one point, but then Skovron has come in with a couple of his teammates here and there, and they've really shown to be a good force to be reckoned with. Then Frank Hamming in 6th place. Prosciutto, unfortunately missing out on the championship, in 7th place. Adam Rainey in 8th. Kevin Moore 9th place, with Remits rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, it was a great race all throughout, and a very deserved top 10. Remits just made that car so wide, and for Prosciutto, couldn't quite find a way through until a decent 20 laps into the race, where he just about managed to edge his way ahead. But overall, a great race, and Scowen a very deserved champion. 20 points ahead of Prosciutto, who finishes runner-up in P2, with Frank Hamming in P3 in the standings. Harry Smith just about unable to get his way ahead, with Adam Ramey securing that P5. Only 3 points, considering himself and Pignataro were level on 85 coming in. So very good result for Adam Rainey to come in on that new burst of form. Of course, 3 podiums for round 8, 9 and 10 on the bounce, and that really did help him both with his confidence. So yeah, great season for Rainey to come in with Netrex and do a great job. Pignataro as well, and Gerard Basela in P7, with Mocareno in P8, Brantham P9 and Morville P10. A very tight midfield, and I hope that's going to stay the same for next season.
Yeah, I really hope to see some of these teams and drivers battling at the top once again. Maybe some of them will be promoted into the Pro Championship as well. We'll have to find out how that one works, but it's certainly been a great season of Academy racing. We had some great battles, and we've seen it's nice to see some different teams and drivers up there, with those top 4 drivers all being in different teams. And even if you add in Pignataro, they're in 6th place. It's 5 different teams top 6 places, which is always really nice to see indeed. But for the schedule, that's it, that's done for the Academy Championship. We still have obviously Pro and World Championship later today, but I think, Zach, it's been an enjoyable season. Hopefully we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, definitely cannot wait. It's been 12 thrilling races, and I think it's been an absolute pleasure from my side, alongside Felix for most of it, and you today, Cam. It's been an absolute pleasure to be a part of it, and I hope for more of the same, maybe even a little bit better for next year. But yeah, for myself and Cam, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you next time.